What's up? Ghost Fictions is here and we're back again. This is a story where Issei was the vessel of the legendary Dark Knight, Sparda. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 3. Osaka, Japan. Bloodwraith Safe House. Issei's office. It had been a week since Issei's last fight against one of the Vatican's finest exorcists and his grim encounter with Nilo Angelo. He and Ingvild had decided to move to Osaka, knowing full well that the factions would just keep bothering them, trying to reclaim the rebellion. Fortunately, Osaka had its perks. The Yakuza family in the area, known as Yoroi no Kaier in English, blood armor, were close allies of the infamous Kai no Murei, or blood wraiths. The blood armor provided protection to the wraiths, especially against any supernatural interference that dared to meddle in their black market dealings or disrupt the creation of their custom supernatural weaponry. In return, the wraiths traded some of their finest weapons to the blood armor, creating a continuous cycle of mutually beneficial exchange. Inside Issei's newly furnished office, he sat comfortably at his desk, digging into a strawberry sundae and enjoying the sweet reward after polishing off 2 entire boxes of pizza. The desk still had the new shine to it, and the room had that faint scent of leather and wood polish. As for Ingvild, she lounged nearby on the couch with a glass of rich red wine in hand, casually swirling it while watching him with a raised brow. She let out a groan of pure frustration. Ingvild. Ugh, seriously, Spock hun. You're telling me you bought a new bike, 2 damn pool tables just so you could play billiards, a whole bunch of band instruments and a 2-month stockpile of Diet Coke? She stood up, pacing with her wine in hand. Ingvild. Now we're short on cash. Issei's expression dropped deadpan as he froze mid-scoop. The spoon slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. He turned to glare at her with a sharp, annoyed tone. Issei. Weren't you the one who spent half of it on your goddamn expensive makeup, perfumes, and fashion clothes? We could have bought a freaking satellite with the amount you blew at the designer store. Ingvild scoffed, turning her back to him dramatically as she took another sip of wine. Ingvild. At least I look good doing it. Issei. Yeah, and I look good being broke thanks to you. They both stared at each other in silence for a moment. The tension hung in the air like a tight string. Then came a simultaneous tired sigh from both sides of the room. Just another day in the chaotic broke-as-hell life of the Dark Knight and his very expensive demon lady companion. Suddenly, the office doors burst open with a loud thud, drawing both Issei and Ingvild's attention. The figure who entered walked in confidently, exuding a cocky aura that matched the smirk plastered across his face. It was Kenji. The old enforcer of the blood wraiths, dressed in his sharp black suit with a loosened red tie and his signature trench coat, stepped inside with swagger in each step. His boots clicked against the wooden floor as he made his way toward Issei's desk. Kenji. Sekiryuutei dono, it's been a week since we last saw each other in person. We've only talked over the phone about relocating here to Osaka. But now, seeing you in this fancy-ass office with dessert in hand. He smirked wider. Life treating you well, huh? Issei didn't even look up from his sundae. He simply muttered in a deadpan tone. Issei. It was treating me well, until the budget went to hell. Kenji chuckled, placing both hands on the desk, leaning forward with a curious look toward the purple-haired demoness lounging on the couch. Kenji. And I'm guessing this is the baddie you warned me about. The one who'd zap my balls off if I paid you lower. Before he could finish his sentence, a loud crack of energy surged near his foot. Purple lightning scorched the floorboards, just inches away from his boot. Kenji yelped and leapt back. Kenji. Yo. Shit, woman. You nearly turned my toes into barbecue. Ingvild casually tilted her wine glass, a sly smirk on her lips as she locked eyes with him, her index finger crackling with the residual electricity. Ingvild. And that was me being nice, sweetheart. Keep barking, and next time I won't miss. Kenji raised both hands in mock surrender, backing off with exaggerated care. Kenji. Alright, geez. Message received. Damn, Sekiryuutei wasn't kidding. You're all beauty and lightning bolts. Issei finally looked up, expression unimpressed. Issei. Kenji, she once fried a fallen angel's spine just because they commented on her perfume. You think you're walking out with your nuts intact if you keep poking the thunder succubus? Kenji slumped into a nearby chair, sighing with mock exhaustion. Kenji. This job's gonna be the death of me. Ingvild's voice cooed dangerously. Ingvild. You'd be lucky if it was just death, darling. Issei rubbed his temples, grumbling under his breath. Issei. Goddammit. You two sound like a bad comedy duo. Kenji leaned back, one leg over the other, tapping his chin thoughtfully. Kenji. Hey, at least we bring life to the party. Imagine how dull this office would be if it was just you, your swords, and your very unhealthy obsession with strawberry sundaes. Issei. Says the guy who once threatened to stab someone over his ramen order. Kenji snapped his fingers. Kenji. Exactly. That was principle. There's a certain way miso should be made, damn it. Niven sighed, but there was amusement in her tone. Niven. Osaka really is going to be a circus with you two buffoons running around. Issei leaned back in his chair, spooning another bite of ice cream. Issei. Yeah, well. Better a circus where we're the ringleaders than a graveyard run by angels and devils with sticks up their asses. Kenji raised his glass, grabbing one from the shelf behind him and pouring himself a shot of sake from Niven's private stash. Kenji. I'll drink to that, Sekiryuutei dono. Kenji reached over and grabbed a half-full bottle of booze that was lying on the table. Without hesitation, he twisted off the cap with a click and raised it to his lips. He chugged the entire thing in one go, no breath, no pause. The empty glass bottle let out a hollow thunk as he placed it back onto the table, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Issei had just finished the last bite of his strawberry sundae, setting the glass bowl aside. He looked up at Kenji, now with a more serious expression replacing his usual relaxed one. Issei. So, got any jobs? I'm sort of running out of cash because this baddie here spent 67% of it on woman stuff. Niven let out a scoff from the couch but said nothing, simply swirling her wine. Kenji's casual demeanor shifted the moment he heard that. His smirk faded, replaced by a colder, more solemn expression. He leaned back slightly in his chair, shadows falling across his eyes. Kenji. Now that you've mentioned it. Kobe's situation is turning into literal hell. They've sent multiple devil scouts sniffing around looking for both of our asses. And it ain't just about jazzing us. Some devil bitch is trying to reclaim her old position as Kobe's governor by assassinating my ass. She's being backed by other mythological gods and the biblical faction, besides the Shinto faction. Issei's brow furrowed. That caught his attention. Issei. Wait a minute. Reclaim her position. There was a governor before you. What kind of beef do you have with the entire faction alliance to make them support someone else over you? Kenji let out a low chuckle, dry, sardonic. He grabbed another bottle of booze from under the desk, popped the cap, and took a quick swig before slamming it gently back onto the table. The tension in the air thickened, as if the mention of the past had stirred something. Kenji. A lot, if you really want to know. But let's start with this. Before me, the governor of Kobe was Leisha Astareth. That name hit Issei like a jolt of lightning. His eyes widened. Of course he knew her, he had met her before. Leisha was smart, classy, and competent. But like so many others, she'd fallen for the silver tongue of Dai. Issei. Her. Wasn't expecting that. She seemed different. So, what happened? What started the beef between you and the entire damn alliance? Kenji sighed, pulling a cigarette from his coat pocket and lighting it with a flick of his thumb. The smoke curled around his face as he took a long drag and exhaled slowly, like he was letting out weeks of irritation in one breath. Kenji. Here's the thing. Leisha. She was actually decent. A damn good governor, too. Not like the period bitch and her four-eyed sadistic slut friend back in Kuoh. She did her job, kept the peace. He tapped ash into an empty glass as he continued. Kenji. But then she caught wind of my black market dealings. She came storming into one of my warehouses like some kind of moral crusader, demanding to shut it all down. Issei narrowed his eyes, trying to process it. Kenji. She had no damn clue that my operations were legal, officially sanctioned under the Shinto factions. Every deal, every piece of supernatural tech we sell is by the book. But she didn't ask questions. She just saw what she wanted and tried to shut me down. He took another puff, eyes glowing faintly from frustration. Kenji. So, she got impeached by the Shinto faction. And guess who got picked as her replacement? Yours truly. Issei. So. She got kicked because she didn't understand the system. Kenji. Exactly. She didn't know how to mind her own damn business, and she didn't know how to read the damn fine print. The only thing separating her from those other faction-obsessed bitches is that she actually cared, but in the wrong damn way. Issei. Damn. No wonder they're sending dogs after us. Kenji grinned bitterly. Kenji. Yeah. Welcome to Kobe politics, Sekiryuutei dono. Where the knives aren't in your hand, they're already in your back. Niven glanced over from her seat, casually swirling her wine. Niven. Sounds like another typical power struggle. Gods, politics, and idiots playing chess with loaded guns. Kenji laughed grimly, taking another drink. Kenji. Yeah, but this time. The pieces bite back. Issei sat back in his chair, eyes narrowing with thought. Issei. Guess it's time we reminded them who really runs this board. Kenji smirked and raised his bottle high. Kenji. Cheers to that, Sekiryuutei dono. Let's make hell freeze over again. He took a swig, then let out a sigh, his expression shifting slightly as something came to mind. Kenji. And during that time. We got intel that a group of ultimate class devils had been roaming around Kobe. They were trying to jack our black market supply of supernatural items. The group was led by a certain bastard named Pexinox. Issei raised an eyebrow at that name Pexinox. He knew exactly who that was. The Nilo Angelo he fought a week ago had mentioned that name. And worse, he had referred to him as his lord. Issei. Wait. That guy. If you remember, I told you about the Nilo Angelo I fought last week. Yeah, that guy said Pexinox was his lord and leader. What the hell is his deal? And what's with the whole rightful ruler of the underworld act? Kenji let out a dry chuckle, leaning forward on the table, fingers tapping against the bottle like it was a ticking bomb. Kenji. Oh, I know him alright. Pexinox isn't your run-of-the-mill devil, Sekiryuutei Dono. He ain't part of the Cow's Brigade either. No sides, no allegiance. Just his own damn twisted vision. And get this, Rizavim tried recruiting him once. Offered him a seat, power, influence. The whole damn buffet. He grinned, puffing on his cigarette. Kenji. And you know what that crazy bastard did? Laughed in his face. Called Rizavim a spoiled brat playing overlord. Said that anyone who calls themselves a Lucifer shouldn't act like a damn child. Issei leaned back slightly, absorbing that information. He wasn't surprised, but it still pissed him off. Kenji wasn't done. Kenji. Pexinox's philosophy is simple: strength is everything. Authority isn't given, it's taken. And to him, the underworld should be under one banner. His. He exhaled smoke from his nostrils and then went quiet for a second before continuing. Kenji. Now about that Kobe incident. We were holding it down. Bloodwraiths were cornering those bastards. Victory was within reach. Then, out of nowhere, guess who decides to show up and ruin everything? He scoffed. Kenji. That ass-to-mouth bitch. Leisha. Issei blinked, caught off guard. Issei. Seriously? She pulled up in the middle of a battle. Kenji. Yup. Thought she could pull off a hero's return. Get her position back by playing savior. She didn't even bother talking, just launched an assassination attempt right on my ass. Issei clenched his jaw slightly. Kenji. So, I responded the only way I know how. Kenji leaned closer, a wicked grin playing on his lips. Kenji. Used one of the relics we got in a trade. Messed her head up bad. I mean, real bad. Dropped her straight into a lucid hell loop, reliving her biggest failure over and over again. Every step she takes, she questions if it's even real. Issei frowned. Issei. You're saying you trapped her in a psych loop? Kenji. Yup. Minfic grade A. It's non-lethal, just torturous. Keeps her off our backs, and the higher-ups don't even realize it's a relic-induced mental bomb. They think she just had a breakdown from the stress. Ain't that poetic? Issei didn't respond at first, just gave a slow nod. He wasn't the type to pity those who tried to kill him or his allies. But still, relics with that kind of power. It reminded him just how deep this game was going. Kenji. Bottom line, Sekiryuutei Dono. Kobe's on fire. And Pexinox. He ain't done yet. That bastard's just warming up. Issei. Then I guess it's time I start getting serious again. Kenji smirked. Kenji. Good. Because hell's about to knock, and I need my devil hunter right at the front door. Kenji let out another laugh, shaking his head as a memory surfaced. Kenji. And hey, just so you know, the Minfic loop didn't stay a loop. I'm not a complete asshole like most of those stuck-up supernatural pricks. He leaned back, a smug yet bitter grin forming. Kenji. But guess what happened after that? That chick ran straight to her uncle, yeah, that nerdy ass-to-mouth bastard, Akajuka Beelzebub. You know, the one who thinks being a genius gives him the right to shove his nose in everyone's business. Issei narrowed his eyes, knowing exactly who Kenji was referring to. Kenji. She spilled everything. Every little thing that happened in Kobe that night. Cried her eyes out to him like a kicked puppy. And that's when shit hit the fan. Kenji's expression darkened, the grin slowly fading as he recalled what followed. Kenji. That bastard was so fucking pissed, he teleported straight to Kobe out of nowhere. And the first thing he did? He scoffed. Kenji. Wiped out 15% of my Bloodwraith forces. Just like that. No warning. No words. Just. Slash. Boom. Gone. Issei's jaw tensed, gripping the edge of the desk slightly. Kenji wasn't exaggerating, that kind of power wasn't just dangerous, it was a declaration of war. Kenji. And not just that, he came straight for me. Didn't even hesitate. Got in close, and with one swipe. Kenji turned his head slightly, revealing the faded scar that trailed from above his right temple down to his cheekbone, the empty socket hidden behind his patch. Kenji. Slashed my right eye socket clean. That's how I lost this goddamn eye. He grabbed the bottle again, took a sharp swig, and set it down with a dull thud. Kenji. All because I defended my turf. Because I exposed his precious little niece's mistake. And instead of owning it, they acted like I was the villain. He leaned forward again, looking Issei dead in the eye. Kenji. That's the thing about the faction alliance, they preach balance, law, and unity. But the second someone from their inner circle screws up, they turn rabid if you call it out. Issei didn't say anything for a moment, just listened. He could tell Kenji had taken more than a physical hit from that encounter. This wasn't just about an eye. It was about pride, respect, betrayal. Kenji. They can play their politics all they want. But I'll never forget that night. And if they think I'll ever bow to them or let their governor come crawling back into power after that. He crushed the now empty bottle in his hand, shards falling onto the carpet. Kenji. They've got another thing coming. Kenji lets out cold deep voice. Kenji. Death. Kenji placed a cigarette between his lips, lit it, and took a long drag. Smoke curled from his nostrils as he leaned back in his seat, exhaling a heavy breath that carried the weight of his past. Kenji. After that night, me and the Blood Wraiths were officially branded as strays by the entire Supernatural Alliance. Even the Shinto pulled out they didn't approve, but they couldn't stop it either. All because that Astaroth bitch sweet-talked her nerdy uncle into turning the whole damn world against us. He tapped ash into the tray with slow, bitter motions. Kenji. Imagine that. Still holding the title of Kobe's governor, but treated and hunted like an outlaw. That's how this twisted system works. Loyalty means jack. I guess losing something close really brings out people's true colors. Issei leaned back with a low, dry chuckle. Issei. Sounds familiar. This is how it is, those sitting in their ivory towers throw people like us to the wolves. And then cry foul when we bite back. They paint us as monsters. But they don't know the hell we've crawled through just to survive. Niven, reclining on the couch with her half-finished wine, scoffed. Niven. Hypocrites. All of them. They scream justice, order, balance until it threatens their control. Then it's witch hunts and exile. The second you challenge the narrative, you're branded a heretic. She gave her wine a lazy swirl and glanced at Issei with a knowing smirk. Niven. You've got that look, Spock-hun. You're about to drop something big, aren't you? Issei stretched, exhaled, and locked eyes with Kenji. Issei. Since we're sharing war stories. Buckle up. What I'm about to say doesn't leave this room. Kenji raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Issei's tone cooled. Issei. I'm not just some unlucky bastard who pissed off the wrong crowd. There's a reason certain devils, angels, and fallen keep reacting weird around me. They feel it even if they don't understand it. He tapped his chest with 2 fingers. Issei. I'm Sparda. Or rather, Sparda's soul reincarnated into this body. His memories, his power, his burdens. All of it. Kenji froze. Kenji. Sparda. The Sparda the Dark Knight who defied Mundus. Issei. Yeah. That's Sparda. And before you ask, no one in the Alliance knows that I'm him. Not the 4 Satans, not the Vatican's holy puppets. Only a few trusted ones. I intend to keep it that way for now. Kenji stared, then laughed, genuine, amazed. Kenji. And here I thought you were just a dragon-possessed maniac with a sword addiction. But you're him. Issei. In flesh and spirit. I witnessed the rise of the original Satans. I stood with angels before their fall. I met the biblical god before silence took him. And yeah. I put down the Devil King before the underworld even had a throne. Kenji leaned back, speechless. Kenji. No wonder you're so natural with relics. And no wonder everyone sees you as greedy, a disgrace, even. In their eyes, you're some clout-chasing lunatic. But what they really sense is something ancient. Something primal. Niven stood, her heels echoing across the room. She placed her wine glass on the desk beside Issei, her gaze sharp. Niven. The best part. They have no damn clue who they're messing with. The elite factions think they're gods. But if they even suspected what he truly is. She smirked, lips curling like a devilish song. Niven. They'd piss themselves and pray for annihilation. Kenji let out a long whistle. Kenji. So what now, Sekiryuutei Dono? Gonna march into the Alliance and drop the bomb? Issei gave a smirk, cool and deadly. Issei. Nah. Let him sleep. I won't need to announce anything. When the time comes. They'll feel it. And by then it's already too late. Kenji stood, grabbing a bottle and lifting it. Kenji. Cheers to that, Sekiryuutei Dono. Or should I say. Sparda-sama. Issei chuckled, waving it off. Issei. Just Issei's fine. Niven rolled her eyes. Niven. Spock-hun's got a nice ring to it though. But sure. Issei it is for now. They toasted in silence, a rare bond between monsters, outcasts, and a legend in mortal skin. The world had no idea what was coming. But the tremors of the storm had already begun. And that storm is approaching. Issei. Anyways, what's the mission, Kenji? And how are Ajuka and his lovely little niece tangled up in this mess? Kenji leaned forward, flicking the ash off the tip of his cigarette, a grin curling on his lips. Kenji. Simple. I want payback. You take care of the nerd I am joining, because I'll handle the bitch. Even if it means marching through the flames of hell, I'm cashing in this grudge. He pulled out a silver flask, took a swig, then offered a lopsided smirk. Kenji. And I'll throw in some payment for your troubles. Hell, I'll even toss in a special bonus if you humiliate that Beelzebub bastard. I want his ego crushed. Make him stutter, cry, combust, whatever works. Issei chuckled, running a hand through his hair. Issei. Bet. I'll make sure the nerd never looks at a calculator the same way again. He gestured lazily toward Ingvild with his thumb. Issei. Also, give some cash to this succubus instead of splitting it between us. I've seen what happens when the airhead Aseb of Michael from the church tries to manage their funds. That girl blew 2 months worth of supply money on holy water scented shampoo. Ingvild raised an eyebrow, her lips quirking in amusement. Ingvild. And here I was thinking you were the reckless one. At least I know how to save for emergencies. Food, water. And the occasional vintage blood wine. She flicked her hair with theatrical flair, then turned to Kenji. Ingvild. I'll handle the money, don't worry. Maybe I'll even put some aside for a replacement eye though, I doubt you'd want to cover up that pirate aesthetic. Kenji laughed, a dark chuckle that seemed to echo off the walls. Kenji. You know what? Keep the eye patch. Intimidates the hell out of the rookies. Issei's grin widened, then he sat back, folding his arms. Issei. Anajuka. What's his niece even doing tied into all this? Kenji's smirk faded, replaced by something colder. His fingers drummed slowly on the side of the table, his eyes narrowing as he spoke. Kenji. Ajuka's trying to sweep things under the rug. Wants my name to vanish, make me a ghost in the underworld. His niece. She's a spoiled brat who thinks she can reclaim her title as Kobe's governor mainly by killing me. But she failed once. And next time? I'm not letting her walk away. The air thickened with tension as the weight of Kenji's word settled in. Issei could almost taste the anger in the room, raw, untamed, and on the brink of eruption. The room fell quiet for a moment, the silence broken only by the soft sound of Ingvild swirling her wine. Issei cracked his knuckles, the faint hum of power pulsing beneath his skin. Issei. Guess it's time to shake up the hierarchy. Let's remind them why they feared the shadows. Kenji raised his bottle again, his eyes gleaming with a mix of bitterness and amusement. Kenji. Let's make hell freeze over again. Ingvild clinked her glass against the bottle, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Ingvild. And may Beelzebub and that Astaroth brat learn what it means to piss off legends. Kenji's grin returned, though it was sharper now, more predatory. Kenji. Believe me, Ingvild. Once we're done with them, they won't forget who put them in their place. They'll be crawling back to their precious factions, begging for mercy. Issei leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a quiet fire. Issei. And when they do, they'll wish they never crossed us. There was a moment of shared understanding, an unspoken pact between the three. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about sending a message. About carving their names into the underworld's history forever. Kenji swirled his drink, eyes gleaming with anticipation. Kenji. Let's see how the so-called Satan Beelzebub handle the storm we're about to bring. Ingvild smirked, finishing her wine and setting the glass down with a decisive thud. Ingvild. This is going to be fun. The finality in the air was palpable. There would be no turning back once they began. The wheels were already in motion, and nothing would stop them from tearing down the empire the faction alliance had built. Scene cut. Opening start. Scene fades in. A lone figure stands atop a jagged cliff in the underworld. The wind howls, carrying the scent of war. Issei Hyoudou stands at the edge, his coat billowing behind him. Below, an army of the supernatural stretches across the battlefield. Devils, fallen angels, and gods from distant mythologies. A force united by a common enemy. Him. A smirk plays on his lips. Without hesitation he dives. Cut to high-speed descent, gunfire and steel flash. Mid-air, he draws loose an ombre, spinning as he rains down bullets. He lands with a shockwave, instantly cutting down a dozen foes with rebellion, his blade tearing through armor and flesh alike. With a single fluid motion, he lunges forward, stinger. A piercing thrust sends an entire legion flying. Suddenly 2 crimson spheres of power of destruction hurtle toward him. Issei flips, twisting mid-air. Before impact, his hand glows royal guard. He absorbs the energy, dispersing it with ease. The attackers reveal themselves. Surzich's Lucifer and Ria's Gremory stand alongside Team DXD, their eyes filled with fury. Close up, shot. Issei smirks. Without hesitation, he raises loose an ombre, the muzzles aimed at his former allies. Gunshot. Scene shifts, blade clash. The bullets transition into sparks, flying, a brutal sword duel. Issei versus Dai. Dai strains under the weight of Issei's blows, his sword trembling. Issei, however, is calm, mocking. He isn't fighting seriously. He's toying with him. Their swords collide. Cut to black. New scene, mystery and intrigue. A beautiful blonde woman gazes at a massive containment tube glowing with holy magic. inside the shattered remains of Yamato. Scene shift, a single gunshot. A blond man face hidden in shadow reloads his revolver, stepping over the corpses of stray devils. Scene shift, apocalyptic confrontation. On the battlefield, Pexinox looms, surrounded by his monstrous army. Facing them alone Issei. He grins. Force edge in hand. Without warning he charges. Final scene, the forbidden fruit. A silhouette Issei stands before a mysterious fruit. He reaches out. He takes a bite. Dark crimson energy erupts, engulfing him. The screen distorts a surge of unstoppable power. Title card appears. Sekiryuutei may cry. Opening end. Scene start. Underworld. Lucifer City, meeting chamber. In the meeting chamber, the biblical faction was gathered. Michael the Archangel, the leader of the angel faction, sat at the head of the table, his presence commanding yet calm. Beside him were Shemhazai and Azazel of the Grigori, the latter wearing an ever-present smirk, while Shemhazai maintained a composed expression. At the opposite end of the table sat the devil faction, led by the regal Serzich's Lucifer. He was flanked by his fellow Satans. Ajuka Beelzebub, Seraphol Leviathan, and Falbium Asmodeus. Ajuka's eyes glimmered with thought, while Seraphol, ever the optimist, wore a light smile that barely hid her unease. Falbium sat back in his chair, seemingly disinterested but sharp enough to follow every word. The Nordic faction was represented by the formidable Allfather Odin, whose presence was overwhelming, even without a word. By his side stood Thor, the god of thunder, who radiated a powerful aura of might. Odin himself watched everything with his piercing gaze, as though measuring the tension in the room. The Norse gods remained quiet but ever ready to act. The Greek faction was led by the mighty Zeus, king of the gods, who towered with his usual dominance. Beside him stood his daughter Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Her calculating eyes never left the assembly, always thinking 2 steps ahead. Zeus, though powerful and revered, kept his thoughts close to his chest, his presence as imposing as the lightning he commanded. The Yaokai faction was represented by Queen Yusaka, her pompous demeanor masking the sharp intelligence behind her golden gaze. She exchanged a few quiet words with her aides before turning her attention back to the ongoing discussions. Her regal bearing commanded respect even among gods, devils, and angels. Lastly, the vampire faction was represented by Elmenhild Karnstein, who appeared calm and collected, though her calculating eyes told a different story. She was the quietest of the group, but her power was undeniable. Her gaze swept over the other leaders, assessing, weighing, calculating what lay ahead. The peerage of Ria's Gremory was present as well, though they had not fully recovered from their last encounter with Issei and Niven the week before. Asper, especially, was still visibly shaken, avoiding eye contact and trembling every now and then, as if reliving the nightmare in his mind. His fear was palpable. His mind was haunted by Niven's kiss attack and the memory of the lightning-infused bat form she used to terrorize him. The attack had left scars beyond the physical. His fear of women with red hair, golden eyes, and lightning magic had only intensified. Even the thought of activating his own bat-like vampire abilities sent chills down his spine. He could still vividly remember the thunderous bat that had nearly consumed him. Kiba wasn't much better. Though he maintained a facade of stoic composure, the trauma from the battle lingered. His posture was stiff, and a haunted look lurked in his eyes. The overwhelming power Niven displayed had shaken him deeply, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. They had faced opponents before, but never one like her. The tension in the room was palpable as the leaders gathered to discuss the rapidly escalating situation. They were all aware of the growing threat, but none had yet made the connection that Issei, the rogue Sekiryuutei and the fallen pillar they spoke of, was more than he appeared. The fact that he was aligned with Niven was already troubling. But none of them knew that Issei was, in fact, the reincarnation of the legendary Dark Knight Sparda, the one who had defied the tyrant Mundus and reshaped the demonic world's fate. His true identity remained a well-guarded secret. As the meeting began, Michael broke the silence, his voice steady and filled with authority. Michael. The situation with Issei is precarious. We are all aware that he possesses the rebellion, but we must also understand the depth of his connection to Niven. We've seen what they're capable of. Niven's power alone is dangerous, but together, they are a force we cannot ignore. He paused, his eyes scanning the room, ensuring his words sank in. Michael. We need a strategy. But we cannot afford to underestimate the threat they pose. The sooner we act, the better. Azazel, ever the pragmatist, leaned forward, his tone casual but heavy with warning. Azazel. We've all seen what happened the last time we confronted them. Issei's not your average devil and Niven. She's no ordinary rogue. We need to tread carefully. Shemhazai followed, his voice calm and low. Shemhazai. There's more to this than just their strength. Issei's motivations are unclear. We've seen his power, but we don't know what drives him. That makes him the most dangerous kind, unpredictable. Serzich's glanced toward Ajuka, who had been silently observing. The strategist finally spoke, his tone smooth and analytical. Ajuka. If we're to confront them, we need to understand the full extent of their connection. Issei and Niven are not simply a threat of brute force, there's history between them. A history we don't yet understand. And that connection might be what gives them their terrifying synergy. Serafal, who had been leaning in her chair, finally chimed in, her voice light but edged with worry. Serafal. I get it, okay. They're strong, like, really strong. But what are we gonna do? We can't just sit around and wait for them to strike again. This is bigger than any of us can handle alone. Falbium cleared his throat, his deep voice cutting in with a more grounded perspective. Falbium. We need to address Niven's abilities first. She incapacitated Ria's entire peerage alone. That puts her high on the threat list. But Issei. He's more than just an enemy. He's become a symbol. A symbol of something we haven't yet fully grasped. As the discussion intensified, the room shifted into careful planning. But all the while, Gasper sat silently, still trapped by the memory of Niven's golden eyes and kiss of doom. The fear inside him wasn't just personal, it was a warning of the chaos she and Issei embodied. Kiba, though equally shaken, knew better than to run. The world they knew was changing, and they'd have to meet that change head on. And yet, no one in the room knew the truth. That Issei Hyoudou, the rogue they feared, was in fact Sparda reborn. Dai sat quietly at the table, his expression dark and stormy. He clenched his fists beneath the table, rage burning in his chest like molten fire. The humiliation from his older brother, Issei, just a week ago, still echoed in his mind. The image of Issei's smug grin after those devastating groin blows haunted him like a curse. Dai, to himself. Issei. I swear, I'll make you pay for this. I'll take everything from you, including the rebellion. Everything you own. It will be mine. His jaw tightened as his resolve hardened. He couldn't allow his brother to continue making a mockery of him. He would turn the tables, even if it meant going through the entire devil faction and challenging the rebellion itself. But before his thoughts could spiral deeper, a glowing magic circle suddenly formed at the center of the chamber. All eyes turned to it. Michael narrowed his eyes slightly, recognizing the sigil instantly. Michael. They're here. A hush fell over the room as the light flared and two figures stepped through. The first was Carl Redgrave, the legendary exorcist, his reputation preceding him. Behind him stood Eva Redgrave, his ward. Her expression was grim, sharp, and cold. The moment her eyes scanned the devils present, her face hardened. Her icy demeanor was like a blade drawn, controlled but deadly. Carl offered a polite nod, his voice respectful. Carl. Lord Michael, forgive our delay. Michael smiled warmly at the sight of Father Redgrave, his expression unchanged by the room's tension. Michael. It is quite all right, Father Redgrave. We were just beginning. Your presence is most welcome. Now. Please tell me, was retrieving the rebellion successful? We have heard nothing since last week. What happened? The leaders exchanged glances, anticipating the answer. Carl exhaled slowly, his displeasure clear. Carl, unfortunately, no, Lord Michael. The mission was not successful. The former pillar's demonic power, combined with the rebellion's cursed essence, proved too strong. Even with Eva's talents, the weapon resisted almost as if it had a will of its own. Eva stood silent beside him, arms crossed, her frustration hidden behind a steely expression. Her silence spoke volumes. Carl. As for why we've remained silent until now. It's because we discovered something far more disturbing. The elite exorcists who accompanied Eva were not who they seemed. They were devils in disguise. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Surziches. What? Devils infiltrated the exorcists. How? Azazel. That's troubling. It means someone's been playing us from the inside. Shemhazai. This could be tied to the coup beneath Lucifer City from 2 weeks ago. We may be dealing with something far more coordinated. Michael nodded solemnly. Michael. This changes everything. There's a shadow organization manipulating events. The rebellion may not even be our primary concern anymore. We need to uncover who's behind this. And what they want. As the silence deepened, Dai's gaze flicked toward Eva. His anger turned momentarily into something else, desire. His eyes lingered on her cold, beautiful face. Her body, her bust, her ass. She was a different kind of prize. The idea struck him like a forbidden thrill. To himself. Eva Redgrave. You'll be the first human exorcist in my harem. Just wait. Eva, feeling his gaze, glanced toward him and let out an irritated growl under her breath before looking away, unimpressed. Michael, unaware of the exchange, continued. Michael. As for Father Redgrave's ward, Eva Redgrave, though she failed to reclaim the rebellion, she did defeat the disgraced former pillar in single combat. Her determination, combined with her magical potential, has made me consider something. He paused, eyes thoughtful. Michael. Would she be worthy enough to wield one of Sparda's blades? Eva was taken aback by this. Her, wielding a devil's sword. An exorcist known for her mastery in holy blades, being offered to wield a devil's blade, specifically, one of Sparda's swords. Such a thing had never been heard of before. Eva? With all due respect, Lord Michael, would it truly be wise for an exorcist to wield a devil's blade? And not just any, but one of Sparda's. Michael offered the young exorcist a calm, reassuring smile. Michael. If it makes you uncomfortable, I will not force you to do so. But from what I've seen of your capabilities, your mastery of magic, your discipline, and your swordsmanship, it's clear you are far from ordinary. And let us not forget, you defeated the fallen pillar. Gasps quietly filled the chamber. The church trio was stunned, their eyes wide in disbelief. That Eva, a human and an exorcist, had overcome the former pillar was no small feat. Irina and Zenobia exchanged a glance, both realizing the extent of Eva's strength. They had always viewed her as capable, but this revelation reframed everything. She was not just skilled, she was a force to be reckoned with. Zenobia, whispering. To think she defeated that damn pervert in a fight. And she's still human. Irina, low tone. It makes sense now. Why Lord Michael would even consider giving her something as powerful as a blade of Sparda. Dai, however, was seething in silence. His jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists beneath the table. A human and exorcist, no less, was being offered the chance to wield one of the remaining blades of Sparda. He was the faction's pillar. He was the one who should be chosen. Not her. Dai, internal. This is absurd. She's just a human. That blade should be mine. I'm the one destined to surpass Issei. Not her. From across the chamber, Queen Yusaka, the regal Kyuubi no Kitsune of the Yokai faction, observed Eva with quiet interest. Her eyes shimmered with curiosity. Yusaka. It is rare for a human to draw such attention from celestial beings. But I see it now. That girl carries an aura not unlike a tempered flame, quiet, yet dangerous if provoked. Perhaps. Lord Michael sees a potential vessel, not of corruption, but of balance. Auden, seated with arms crossed, gave a huff of interest. The All-Father's piercing gaze narrowed slightly as he looked upon Eva. Auden. HMPH. A mortal exorcist wielding a demon sword. In my youth, I'd call it folly. But Sparda's blades are not mere weapons. They choose their wielder as much as they are wielded. If the girl has the will, then I say let her prove it. Thor, beside his father, gave a curt nod of agreement. Thor. Courage and willpower are often stronger than bloodlines. That girl possesses both. Zeus, watching in his usual contemplative silence, finally spoke, his deep voice rumbling like distant thunder. Zeus. The balance of power shifts not by titles, but by strength. If she can master Sparda's blade without losing herself, she will be feared even by the gods. That kind of resolve cannot be ignored. Athena said nothing, but her sharp eyes watched Eva closely, as though already running calculations on what it would mean if she did take up the blade. Meanwhile, Olmenhild Karnstein, the vampire faction's leader, remained seated with her fingers gently folded. Her crimson gaze lingered on Eva for a moment longer before she finally spoke. Olmenhild. Humans are often underestimated. Until they change the course of history. I suggest we stop thinking of her as just a mortal exorcist. If Lord Michael believes she's worthy, perhaps it's time we start considering what she might become. The chamber fell into a reflective silence. Eva stood tall, her expression unreadable. Internally, she was still at odds. Was this truly a path she could walk? Or would accepting this blade make her something else? Her voice was calm, but resolute. Eva. Then. I ask for time. If I am to wield one of Sparda's blades, I will do so by choice, not by impulse. And if I do, I promise it will not fall into disgrace. Michael gave a nod, his eyes full of pride. Michael. That is all I could ask of you, Eva Redgrave. And so, the seeds of a decision that could shift the tides of their world were quietly planted. In the hands of a human who might one day wield the devil's blade without becoming one herself. The tension in the chamber slowly began to dissipate. With Eva's stance made clear and the leaders offering their silent approval or contemplative interest, the meeting began to draw to a close. Michael. Then it is settled for now. Let us reconvene when the time is right. May the light guide your steps, all of you. The celestial glow around Michael gently dimmed as he rose from his seat. The other leaders began their exits, murmuring quietly amongst themselves. Riaz Gremory, ever observant, approached Akeno as they walked away from the central table. Riaz, whispering. Eva Redgrave. She's unlike any exorcist I've seen before. Cold, compass dangerous. Akeno, smirking softly. I like her. Strong women who don't bow easily are rare these days. Though I wonder if she's always like that. Or if she's hiding something beneath all that steel. Riaz. Either way, she's definitely not someone to take lightly. The Gremory heiress cast one last look toward Eva before leaving with her entourage. Meanwhile, Dai saw an opportunity. With most of the high leaders departing, he approached Eva with that same smug confidence he always carried. He brushed a hand through his brown hair and wore his signature cocky smile. Dai. Eva, right. You really know how to make an impression. Defeating my disgrace of brother, catching Michael's eye, and now possibly wielding a blade of Sparda. That's impressive. For a human. I mean, seriously, I'm once a human but reincarnated as my lover's pawn. Eva didn't even look at him, her expression stone cold as she adjusted her coat. Dai, leaning closer. Tell you what, why don't we grab a drink sometime? Just you and me. You might find I'm not like other devils. In fact, I think you'd enjoy my company. Eva finally turned her gaze toward him, icy, sharp, and without even the faintest flicker of warmth. Eva. You're mistaken, Dai. She stepped past him without hesitation, her voice firm and venom-laced with disgust. Eva. You're a devil. The host of the evil dragon. No matter what title you hold, no matter if you're the so-called pillar of the faction alliance, you'll always be a heretic in my eyes. Dai's grin faltered. Eva, coldly. I don't break bread with devils. Let alone share drinks with one. She walked off, leaving him standing in stunned silence, a mix of rejection and humiliation, clawing at his pride. The faint chuckle echoed behind him. Akeno, passing by. Maybe she's not in the mood, like Zenobia before. Better luck, Anada. Riaz, smiling faintly. She's not the type to play games, Dai-kun. Better luck next time. The grand chamber's doors slowly shut behind them all, leaving behind only the lingering whispers of tension. And the echo of a devil's bruised ego. Dai, muttering with a smirk. Eva Redgrave. I promise that one day, you'll be part of my harem. Along with the blade of Sparda. Whether it's the Yamato, the rebellion, or the Force Edge. His words hung in the air like a vow etched in shadows and pride. United Kingdom, Redgrave City. The church's hidden sanctum, time. 3:27 p.m. Back with Eva, silence surrounded her. Her and Carl had left the meeting from the underworld after they were all dismissed. She stood in a sanctified chamber deep within the Vatican, her gaze fixed upon the broken blade sealed before her. It pulsed faintly with dormant power, its presence alone, casting a subtle pressure in the air. The Yamato. Not just any devil but Sparda. The legendary Dark Knight who once defied his own kind. A figure woven in myth, now made tangible in steel. Eva, thinking. Should I wield this? A sword born of a devil's will. A relic of his rebellion. Her fingers hovered just above the case, hesitating. Eva, thinking. I am an exorcist. A guardian of the church. Trained to wield holy blades, not demonic ones. To strike down evil, not carry it. Conflicted, her eyes narrowed. The weight of responsibility gnawed at her faith, her training, her very identity. And yet, somewhere deep within, something stirred. A pull. A question not yet answered. Was she meant to wield it? Or was this temptation? She didn't know. But fate always had a way of forcing the hand. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Niven, running away while holding a cup noodle of ramen and a box of pizza while being chased by both Chibi Issei and Chibi Kenji. Underworld, Astaroth territory. Astaroth mansion. It had been 2 hours since the meeting had ended. Inside one of the storage rooms of the mansion, Issei, Niven, and Kenji were holed up in secret, whispering amongst crates and shadows as they discussed their plans. Kenji. So what's the plan? How are we gonna lure that bitch and the Beelzebub nerd here? Issei and Niven exchanged a glance. And knowing one. They were thinking the same thing. Issei, sighing. Sorry, but. Looks like my paycheck's gonna get cut for this. And you're not gonna like what I'm about to say. Kenji frowned in confusion. Kenji. What do you mean? Before he could finish, a bolt of crackling purple lightning surged from Niven's fingertips, striking Kenji square in the chest. He collapsed instantly, knocked out cold, smoke rising lightly from his jacket. Niven, smiling coyly. It means we're going to use you as bait, my dear. She chuckled darkly, brushing back a strand of her hair as she looked down at Kenji's unconscious body. Issei, muttering. Yeah. Definitely getting docked for this. The trap had begun. Inside the halls of the mansion, multiple guards were stationed throughout, maintaining strict vigilance. Suddenly, a blur fast and unnatural rushed past their vision. A purple blur. Alerted, the guards immediately raised their weapons, calling out to each other in sharp whispers. They cautiously moved toward the direction the blur had gone, weapons drawn and senses heightened. The blur flickered past their line of sight once more, this time leading straight toward the old storage room. One by one, the guards entered, the atmosphere thick with tension. Inside, they saw a figure sitting on a wooden chair, back turned toward them. A long purple trench coat hung off the figure's shoulders, and spiky white hair crowned their head. The guards narrowed their eyes. Then, slowly, the chair creaked as it turned to face them, revealing not Issei, but Kenji, begrudgingly tied to the chair. He was wearing Issei's coat and a cheap white wig, his lone black eye glaring at them with utter disdain. The other side of his face bore the faint scar where his missing eye had once been, half covered by messy strands of the wig. Kenji. TCH. Seriously? A wig? You people are the worst. He squirmed slightly in the chair, clearly annoyed but not even slightly afraid. The guards blinked in confusion. It took a second, but then recognition struck. This wasn't just some decoy, it was Kenji, the infamous punk who humiliated Leisha Asterith. But what was stranger was his getup. The coat, the wig, the whole act. Before they could react. Crack. A sharp sound echoed through the room. From a shadowed corner above, Issei stood silently, poised with a pool stick in hand, next to a full set of billiard balls arranged on an old table. The dim lighting flickered across his face, catching a smirk that spelled trouble. Issei, smirking. Hey, quick question. He snapped the cue ball with expert precision, sending it slamming into the others, each one bouncing off the walls with ricocheted force and smacking multiple guards in the face with loud thwacks, knocking them back in a storm of surprise and groans. Issei, grinning. Who are we shooting at again? Chaos erupted in the storage room. Guards stumbled over each other, falling back from the unexpected assault of flying pool balls. Kenji, still tied up and clearly unimpressed, let out a dry grunt. Kenji. Took you long enough, asshole. I've been sitting here playing dress up like some circus freak. Issei, chuckling. Hey, relax Cyclops, you make a good decoy. I mean damn, you even had me convinced. Kenji growled under his breath, yanking at the ropes that kept him tied. Kenji. Swear to God, if I get out of this, I'm beating your smug face in with your own pool stick. Niven's voice, smooth and sultry, echoed faintly through the intercom hidden in the corner of the room. Niven. Play nice, boys. We've got company coming soon. And remember, Kenji, try not to lose your only eye. It's your best feature. Kenji's expression twisted further as he muttered curses under his breath. Kenji. I hate all of you. The sound of backup approaching echoed down the hall, heavy boots and shouting filling the space. Issei, cracking his neck. Looks like showtime. Let's give them a little performance. He twirled the pool stick once more before leaping down from the upper level, landing with a thud as the next wave of guards burst through the doors. The room would become a storm of chaos, with Kenji fuming in the center of it, all tied up, eye blazing, and absolutely done with everyone's bullshit. He soon broke free from his restraints, ripping the ropes with brute force and sheer frustration. With a grunt, he yanked off Issei's coat and threw it high into the air, letting it flutter like a discarded flag of shame. Underneath, he revealed his own gear, dark rugged combat wear fitted with holsters, and across his back, a custom sheath. From his side, he pulled out his modified pistol, a handcrafted supernatural killing machine, forged with silver inscribed runes, dragonbone grips, and a sleek matte black design made for precise brutal takedowns. He cracked his neck, raised his arm, and without hesitation. Blam. 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 3 guards dropped in sync, each bullet infused with magic, piercing through enchanted armor like wet paper. Kenji. From this day on, kid, I'm never gonna listen to your plan again. And where the hell is that ass-to-mouth whore? Issei, grinning as he flips over a crate. You mean Leisha? I dunno, maybe fixing her ego after what you did to it a long time ago. Kenji, firing again. TCH. I'm gonna start shooting you next, Dumbus. Another guard lunged forward, sword drawn, only to be struck mid-air by Niven's lightning whip, crackling violet in the dim light. She stepped into view with elegant lethality, hip swaying with a casual grace that masked pure destruction. Niven, purring. Now, boys. Play nice. Or do I need to discipline both of you? She lashed her whip again, coiling it around a guard's neck and yanking him violently into a stack of crates. They exploded on impact, wood and splinters flying. Issei, grabbing a second pool cue and dual-wielding them. What can I say, teamwork makes the dream work. He spun the pool cues like batons, jabbing one into a guard's gut and cracking the other across another's skull. Issei weaved through the chaos, a whirlwind of improvised violence, unpredictable and cocky as hell. Kenji, reloading his pistol, eye twitching. This is not a dream, it's a damn nightmare. He kicked over a table and used it as partial cover before unleashing another volley of enchanted rounds. The bullets ricocheted in precise angles, each one hitting its mark with lethal efficiency. Kenji moved like a one-eyed demon fueled by fury, magic, and a severe lack of patience. Then, crash. A loud magical burst blew open the far entrance of the storage room. A powerful surge of demonic energy followed as Leisha Asterith stormed in. Her aura flared like a burning sigil, dangerous and regal. She had long flowing blonde hair with sharp bangs and bright blue eyes that burned with intensity. Her outfit was as bold as her presence. A stylish red dress with black and gold accents, featuring a heart-shaped neckline trimmed with white frills. A black fur collar wrapped around her shoulders, complemented by long white gloves and a miniature black and red top hat with a bow perched stylishly atop her head. Gold buttons, a black sash with dangling chains, and a cross-shaped charm completed the ensemble, aristocratic, theatrical, and armed with deadly charm. Leisha, furious. What in the name of Satan is going on in here? Her eyes immediately locked onto Kenji, who still had smoke curling from the barrel of his pistol. Kenji, smirking with a growl. Speak of the devil. And she shows up. The chaos seemed to freeze, tension thick enough to slice with a blade. Dust hung in the air like fog. Niven, cracking her whip with a sultry grin. Well. Looks like things are about to get fun. Kenji let out a low, mocking chuckle as he twirled his pistol once and holstered it with a smooth click. His one good eye locked onto Leisha with that same cocky smirk, half predator, half provocateur. Kenji. It's been 2 years since the last time we met, Leisha. Aka the Astra spoiled bitch. Still got that stick up your ass about losing Kobe, huh? Still sending scouts sniffing around just to cling to your old title as governor. He stepped forward over broken glass and the crumpled bodies of unconscious guards, boots heavy, movements casual like he owned the damn room. Kenji, grinning. Well, tough shit. That title's mine now. You lost it, and no amount of fake smiles or noble tantrums is gonna change that. Leisha stood tall in the doorway, her aura radiating with arcane authority, eyes burning with a cold flame as she slowly strode forward. Her crimson-red dress shimmered with the power gathering around her. Leisha, frosty. Don't flatter yourself, mongrel. The only reason I lost my position was you dragging my name through the dirt with your disgusting little business ventures. Kenji, mocking. You mean my legal trade route sanctioned by the Shinto under divine neutrality? That black market was cleared by Amaterasu herself. You sabotaged it because you couldn't stand the idea of me being respected. Leisha, snapping. It was illegal by the standards of the underworld and the laws we uphold. Kenji. Bullshit. You broke a treaty. You crossed a line. And you used your status to crush me behind the scenes, then cried to your nerd uncle when it backfired. Her gloves flexed, the magic in her palm flaring brighter now. Her jaw clenched, lip curling as if she couldn't stand the sight of him. Leisha. You corrupted the city. You brought chaos, filth, and dishonor to a territory that was meant to be mine. Kenji. You mean a city you ruled with a leash around your neck, begging for scraps from your clan's table? At least I built something. I didn't inherit it. The air cracked between them with rising energy. Niven leaned against the wall, amused as ever, watching the verbal knives fly. Niven, grinning. My. Is this a political debate or the start of foreplay? Issei snorted somewhere behind a pile of crates, still casually flipping a pool cue between his fingers. Issei. Either way, someone's about to get slapped. Leisha's eyes narrowed dangerously. Leisha, quietly. You'll pay for what you did to my name, Kenji. For the humiliation. For taking everything I worked for. Kenji, stepping even closer. I didn't take anything. You threw it away the moment you stabbed me in the back. He paused, tilting his head. Kenji, low and taunting. And here I thought the Asterisks were supposed to be good at playing the long game. Guess you're just another sore loser. Leisha. You're a disgrace to every faction that tolerates your existence. Kenji, grinning. And yet, here I am alive, thriving, and still pissing you off. Must be doing something right. The tension snapped taut like a drawn bow. Sparks danced along Leisha's gloves. Kenji's hand hovered near his holster. Their history, messy and bloodstained, was now boiling to the surface again. Suddenly, a green magic circle lit up beneath the shattered floor, its intricate patterns glowing ominously as runes pulsed in a rhythmic hum. The very air shifted charged, heavy, followed by a sharp gust of arcane wind. And then, without warning, Ajuka Beelzebub emerged from the summoning circle, his presence alone commanding silence. Clad in his Satan devil attire, with flowing robes trimmed in emerald and black, his gaze swept across the scene with detached calm. His mind processed the chaos, the bloodied guards, and the rising magical tensions in an instant. He had known this day would come. According to his calculations and predictions, the probabilities had aligned too perfectly. It was inevitable. Ajuka's eyes fell briefly on Issei, who was casually leaning against a crate behind the fray, flipping a pool cue like a bored trickster. Issei didn't flinch. He knew Ajuka would eventually find him. The so-called stray devil, long presumed dead after the incident in Greece. His name had been whispered only in rumors, a ghost in the aftermath of the failed Team DXD operation to retrieve Rebellion. Ajuka narrowed his eyes slightly. For him to still be alive and hiding in Kobe of all places. There was only one logical conclusion. He was working with Kenji. And that meant only one thing: vengeance. The gears had already been turning behind the scenes. Issei was never one to let grudges die quietly. Ajuka had known that a day would come when Issei would pick up the pieces of his past and aim them back at the ones who betrayed him. Ajuka, calmly. So. The probabilities were correct after all. His voice cut through the tension like a knife. Kenji turned his head toward him, one eye locked on the Beelzebub with measured indifference, his pistol still warm from battle. Kenji. Took your time, nerd. Issei smirked and leaned on the pool cue like a staff. Issei. Hey there, Ajuka. Miss me? Ejuka didn't answer. His gaze remained unreadable, calculating, already running through countless possible outcomes from this singular moment. The room fell into a quiet standoff, heavy with implication. Whatever happened next, fate had already begun to move its hand. The atmosphere was dense. Dust floated in the air like hanging tension, heavy with old grudges and silent accusations. As the last of the magic energy from Ejuka's circle dissipated, Kenji lowered his pistol slightly, though his stance remained firm. His single eye locked onto Beelzebub's with a cold, deliberate glare. Kenji. Been a long time, Ejuka. You still doing the math while others spill the blood? Ejuka didn't flinch, his expression unreadable. Ejuka. And you're still letting your emotions compromise your logic. Kenji chuckled dryly, circling a bit with slow, measured steps, like a wolf reminiscing in a cage. Kenji. I still remember it clearly. 2 years ago. Leisha couldn't handle the truth, so she ran to you crying to her sweet uncle about how the barbarian humiliated her precious little pride. He stopped, his voice darkening. Kenji. You didn't even hesitate. Thus gave the order like it was some minor chess move. You wiped out 15% of the blood wraiths. My comrades. For what? A sanctioned deal. A black market trade that was legal under Shinto law. Ejuka remained still. His silence was neither denial nor regret, just cold, statistical neutrality. Kenji's fingers twitched near the grip of his pistol. The weight of memory was heavier than the gun. Kenji. You didn't just stain that title. You turned me into a stray. You took my damn eye. He reached up and tapped the black eye patch covering the scarred side of his face, an ugly reminder of the purging spell that tore through his right eye. The night Leisha's report reached Beelzebub's desk. Kenji. 15%. My whole squad. Dead. Burned by your judgment like we were pawns. Ejuka finally spoke, voice low and analytical. Ejuka. You were operating in a gray zone. The deal may have been legal by Shinto customs, but it disrupted the political balance. Leisha was reckless, yes. But your retaliation nearly sparked a war. I made a calculated decision to prevent greater loss. Kenji, growling. Calculated, huh? You think putting me in the ground would have solved your equation? Well, Fee, it's just that bitch came onto your ass and tells everything on what I did to her, and you decided to go after my ass and mark me as a stray. He stepped closer, closing the gap just enough to let the air between them vibrate with tension. Kenji. You didn't finish the job. And now you're standing here. Looking me in the eye. The one you left me. Ejuka's gaze remained sharp, focused. Ejuka. No. I'm here because the math changed. Issei's reappearance, the rebellion, Kobe, your alliance, and the trajectory you're on, it's all leading to a singularity. He paused, then added without emotion. Ejuka. Whether you burn out or break through. It's already begun. The room grew still again. Behind them, Ingvild licked her lips playfully from the shadows, her whip still humming with residual magic. Issei tapped his pool cue on the ground with a lazy rhythm, watching everything unfold with devilish amusement. Issei, grinning. Ain't fate just a bitch? Kenji didn't laugh. He just stood there. Eye locked on Ejuka. Waiting. Calculating. But no longer running. Only forward now. Ejuka raised his hand, a glowing green magic circle spiraling to life beneath him. The air vibrated with unnatural force as reality twisted under the weight of his calculations. His gaze, cold and precise, fixed on Kenji. Ejuka. A stray like you still dares to breathe beneath my sky. With a flick, he unleashed a beam of compressed demonic energy, a strike forged by precision and intent. The attack blazed across the marble floor toward Kenji. But before it could land. Royal Guard. A crimson flash. Issei stepped into the path, arms crossed, his aura flaring outward like a wall of defiance. The beam smashed into him, but instead of recoiling, he absorbed it, compressed it until it collapsed into harmless sparks around him. Smoke hissed off his coat as he straightened with a grin. Issei. If you want to face this one-eyed madman, then you'll have to go through us, ass to mouth. A sultry chuckle echoed through the chamber. Ingvild. Indeed. With a flourish, Ingvild dismissed her electric whip, which burst into a swarm of violet lightning-coated bats that fluttered around her like a vengeful storm. Ejuka's gaze narrowed. Ejuka. Then perished together. He clapped his hands, and reality trembled. Boss fight. Ejuka Beelzebub. The devil's mathematician. Phase 1. The law of control. Ejuka's Kankara formula ignited across the battlefield. Dozens of magic circles materialized midair, each manipulating the physics and flow of the area. Gravity twisted. Light bent. Heat dispersed. It was a reality rewritten in real time. Ejuka floated above the battlefield, calmly orchestrating wave after wave of altered phenomena. Issei performed trickster dash as he blinked from circle to circle, dodging spiraling lances of refracted heat and redirected energy. With each step, he launched gunslinger shots in randomized arcs, his unpredictability frustrating Ejuka's calculations. Niven twirled through the storm like a thunder goddess, launching bolts of lightning and bat swarms, only to watch Ajuka's circles convert them into bursts of mist. Ajuka. Your powers are simply variables. And I am the equation. He extended his hand, and Niven's lightning whipped back toward her, now twisted into jagged beams of controlled plasma. Issei, Royal Guard. Not today. He stepped in again, guarding the redirected bolts, absorbing the force then launching it back in a wave of crimson energy that tore through several of Ajuka's glyphs. Ajuka finally blinked, his first sign of visible effort. Meanwhile, Kenji versus Leisha. The far end of the ruined chamber erupted in sparks as Kenji and Leisha clashed. Leisha, fury in her voice. You stole my seat. My legacy. Everything. She unleashed flaming crests, fire-coated blades swirling through the air like guided missiles. Kenji. You lost it yourself. You just can't accept that you sabotaged me and still got outplayed. He fired his custom pistol, each shot ricocheting off the walls and slamming into her barrier with surgical precision. She grunted, staggering back. Leisha. You're nothing but a stray mongrel. Kenji, grinning. One-eyed stray, sure. But I'm still standing. Can you say the same when this is over? They charged again, blades clashing with sparks and fury. Boss fight. Phase 2. The rewrite. Ajuka's hands moved faster now, fingers typing into the void, modifying magic, rewriting forces, calculating attack vectors before they happened. He created a new layer of Kankara circles. Now, each spell he redirected was stronger, altered into chaotic forms like turning Issei's bullets into piercing light spears and Niven's bats into detonating shock mines. Issei, panting. Okay. He's getting serious. He darted into a trickster dash, teleported behind Ajuka and unleashed a gunslinger combo, shotgun blasts, ricochet rounds, and aerial bursts. Ajuka raised a shield but too late. The shotgun cracked his arm guard, sending sparks flying. Niven, singing. Thunder. She unleashed a full-scale lightning storm. The room exploded with light as dozens of electric bats dive-bombed the battlefield. Ajuka rerolled half of them but 3 got through, chaining lightning into his body. Ajuka growled, his control wavering. Ajuka. Enough. He activated the final layer of the Kankara formula. The entire chamber lifted into the air, stones levitating, time slowing, making it impossible to predict movement by standard means. But Issei laughed. Issei. Wrong move, nerd. He activated Royal Guard, absorbing the temporal shockwave, his aura now flaring, pressure cracking the ground. He dashed in, trickster blink left, then right, then over Ajuka's shoulder. Niven appeared behind Ajuka, her whip reforming as a spear of raw lightning. Niven and Issei, in sync. Finale. Issei parried Ajuka's final attack with a fully charged Royal Guard counter, an explosion of crimson energy that stunned the Devil King midair. Niven thrust the lightning spear into Ajuka's back, releasing a shockwave so violent it short-circuited half of the glyphs in the chamber. Ajuka screamed as his calculations collapsed. His circuits overloaded. The Kankara matrix shattered like glass. Finisher. Issei leapt into the air, dual pistols spinning in his hands, as he performed a final gunslinger burst, slamming a full mag into Ajuka's chest at point-blank range. Issei. Eat this ass-to-mouth style. Boom. Ajuka was sent crashing through 3 walls of his own magical reinforcement, embedded into the rubble, glyphs flickering and dying out. Smoke hissed across the battlefield as Niven floated down beside Issei. Niven. That was electrifying. Issei, panting, smirking. Yeah. Science bitch didn't see that in his formula. Ajuka groaned, body twitching from overexposure to redirected magic. He looked up, cracked glasses, bloodied mouth and locked eyes with Issei. Ajuka, rasping. You shouldn't exist. You're an anomaly. You damn disgrace of a pillar. Issei, walking away. Good. I like being the bug in your system. He turned toward Kenji just as the one-eyed madman stood triumphant over a defeated, unconscious Leisha, smoke rising from her body. Kenji. Wiping blood off his face. About damn time. As the dust began to settle and the battle's final echoes rang through the shattered chamber, Ajuka Beelzebub's body twitched and glowed faintly. The damage was overwhelming, his once pristine form now battered, bloody, and broken. He lay motionless on the ground, but the overwhelming force of the attacks unleashed by Issei and Niven had triggered a strange, violent reaction. Ajuka's body started to vibrate, the energy around him intensifying as cracks began to form in his skin, releasing bursts of demonic aura. His very being began to warp. His will, however, was still strong. Despite everything, Ajuka refused to surrender. He fought against it, resisting the inevitable transformation into a devil arm, a process that could only occur when a devil is defeated to such an extent that they are forced to accept the change. But the Kankara formula inside him, now teetering on the edge of being lost, began to react. Ajuka gritted his teeth, his expression one of grim defiance as he attempted to fight against the transformation. His form shimmered as the power within him continued to struggle, but it was clear that the overwhelming force of the attack had pushed him too far. The devil arm transformation, though still resisted by his will, could no longer be denied. Hyoudou, gritting his teeth. I will not yield. I will not. He went unconscious. Suddenly, a green orb, glowing with a brilliant pulsating light, shot out from the center of Hyoudu's chest. The orb was small, but radiated an immense energy, almost as if it contained the very core of Hyoudu's power, his Kankara formula. The orb darted through the air, its trajectory aimed directly at Issei. Before anyone could react, the orb lunged toward Issei with a sudden, terrifying speed. Issei, still standing tall and smug from his victory, blinked once before realizing what was happening. Issei, eyes widening. Huh? The orb shot straight into Issei's chest, and a surge of power exploded through him. He staggered slightly but didn't fall. Instead, a new energy thrummed within him, the magical currents of Hyoudu's Kankara formula, now coursing through his veins. It was like a lightning strike, electric, raw, and utterly uncontrollable. Niven, looking on, eyes narrowing. What the hell is this? The Kankara formula had been forcefully absorbed, leaving Hyoudu's defeated form inert and unresponsive. Issei felt it, the power that surged through him. It was overwhelming, the ability to manipulate phenomena, to control the flow of magic in the same way Hyoudu had. The Kankara formula wasn't just some passive ability, it was a fighting style, a method of using and manipulating natural phenomena with magical precision. Like trickster, gunslinger, royal guard, and swordmaster, it became another form of combat mastery. Issei, smirking, flexing his fingers. Well, that was a nice little gift. Looks like I've got a new toy. I'll rename this as strategist. Kenji grinned darkly as he stepped back, admiring the work he'd done. Leisha was unconscious, slumped against the cold stone wall, her arms bound tightly by a series of ropes that held her firmly in place. He'd taken his time securing her, ensuring that there would be no chance of her escaping easily. The ropes weren't just any ordinary bindings, they were made of a specialized material known for its ability to tamper with magic, making sure that Leisha couldn't simply summon her powers to break free. Kenji looked down at her for a moment, the weight of their past tension lingering like a storm cloud. With a mocking smile, he leaned in close, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Kenji. Wakey, it's time for school. He slapped her cheek with a quick, sharp motion, the sound echoing off the walls. Leisha's eyes fluttered open, a flash of confusion and rage sweeping over her face as she realized her situation. Her arms were bound tightly, the ropes digging into her skin, and she could barely move her limbs. Leisha, gritting her teeth. You bastard. She struggled against the ropes, but nothing happened. The magic inside her was trying to rise, but it was being suppressed. Kenji's ropes had been carefully crafted to interfere with her abilities, preventing her from using the very powers that had made her such a threat in the first place. Her blue eyes flashed with fury as she glared at Kenji, trying to summon the force to break free, but it was useless. She growled in frustration, her hands clenching into fists against the magical restraints. Kenji, laughing darkly. Thought you could escape that easily, huh? Not this time. Leisha, snarling. You think you've won? This is just a setback. Without warning, Kenji slapped her again, this time harder, his hand connecting with her cheek in a forceful blow. The sting left her skin burning, and for a brief moment, her vision blurred. The anger and humiliation of the situation was enough to make her blood boil. Kenji, still smirking. I hold a grudge, sweetheart. You ruined me, made me lose my damn eye. Do you think I've forgotten about that? The mention of his lost eye caused Leisha's eyes to flicker with a brief flash of recognition. She knew full well that her actions had led to that incident, the loss of Kenji's right eye, and, though she would never admit it, she had always considered him a threat because of his ability to fight back. Kenji, leaning in closer, voice low and dangerous. I haven't forgiven you, Leisha. Not for that. And not for everything you've done to me. His tone was cold, final, and Leisha could feel the weight of his words press down on her. The resentment was palpable, a festering wound between them that had never healed. She knew Kenji's wrath was not something to be taken lightly. Leisha, through gritted teeth. You think this makes you better than me? Kenji, laughing again, his voice dripping with venom. Better? No. But it makes me feel a hell of a lot better than I've felt in a long time. You've been a thorn in my side for far too long, Leisha. Time to pull it out. Kenji stepped back, taking in the sight of her bound and struggling. Leisha was far from helpless, he knew that much, but for now, she was under his control. And that, in itself, felt like a small victory. Kenji, tauntingly. I wonder what you're going to do now, huh? Can't use your magic, can't escape. You're just stuck here with me. The tension in the room hung thick in the air as Leisha's rage simmered just beneath the surface. The ropes would hold her for now, but it was clear that this confrontation was far from over. Kenji knew that, despite the current circumstances, he had only managed to corner her for a short time. He wouldn't underestimate her, she was a dangerous enemy. But for now, he relished the chance to have her at his mercy. Kenji pulled out his customized pistol, the cold steel gleaming under the dim light of the room. He aimed it directly at Leisha's head, the muzzle inching closer to her face, and for a moment, she froze. Her usual confident and haughty demeanor cracked, and a flicker of fear ignited in her eyes. It was subtle, but it was there, and Kenji couldn't help but revel in it. Leisha, trembling slightly. What are you doing? She could feel the icy touch of dread creeping down her spine. The pistol felt like an insurmountable weight in the air between them, an executioner's judgment poised to fall. Her breath hitched, the magnitude of her situation sinking in. Her powers, her pride, and her arrogance, they had all failed her in this moment. Kenji, smirking darkly. Me? Just sending a message, sweetheart. And a final warning. He leaned in slightly, the barrel of the gun steady and unwavering against her skin. He could feel the tension in her body, the way she trembled just enough for him to notice. It was satisfying in a way that made his stomach churn with twisted satisfaction. His grip on the gun tightened ever so slightly, his voice dropping into a low, dangerous tone. Kenji. You see, I'm not gonna kill you, Leisha. At least, not yet. He stepped back, pacing slowly in front of her, keeping the barrel aimed at her head. He wasn't planning on pulling the trigger, not now, but his next words would hang over her like a storm cloud. Kenji, grinning maliciously. But here's the thing. You try sending any more of your forces to Kobe hell, even try any little stunt, and I'll make sure your operation comes crashing down. We've got access to weapons and intel that's not just for the devil's underworld anymore. I could sell it to government entities. Japan's self-defense forces wouldn't hesitate to take action. Or, even worse, the United States military could get involved. Leisha's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. The thought of involving the US military, the might of the Western world, was not something she'd ever considered before. The idea that Kenji, this one-eyed rogue, had the power to broker deals with such powerful entities was terrifying. She couldn't help but imagine the consequences of such an escalation. Kenji, leaning in close, his breath almost hot against her ear. You think you can command them, huh? You think you're untouchable, like a queen? I'm telling you right now, Leisha, if they get involved, it'll be nothing but a bloodbath. Leisha, growing pale. You wouldn't. Kenji's smirk deepened as he stepped back, his voice casual, almost playful. Kenji, mockingly. Wouldn't I? Let me put it to you this way. I'm not sure which would be worse, facing the wrath of the Japanese self-defense forces or being on the receiving end of the United States military. They love playing the hero. And you know what they say, the scream of a bold eagle calling for democracy and freedom could be the last thing you hear before they wipe you off the map. He let the words hang in the air like an ominous echo, his eyes never leaving hers. He could see the terror begin to creep across her face, a reaction he knew all too well. Leisha, always the confident, ruthless leader, now seemed vulnerable, trapped in her own web of deceit and ambition. Kenji continued, his voice laced with venom but a twisted satisfaction, as if he had all the power in the world now. Kenji, whispering darkly. I'll make you a deal. You'll stop messing with Kobe. You'll keep your hands out of my territory. And I'll let you walk away with your life. He paused, letting the weight of his threat settle in. Leisha could feel her heart race. She couldn't afford to let him have this power over her. The devil's pride was a dangerous thing, but for once, she was unsure if her pride could keep her alive. Kenji's eyes gleamed with that same twisted satisfaction, like a predator watching his prey slowly realize that there was nowhere to run. The gun in his hand didn't waver, the black barrel still aimed directly at her. It was as if he was savoring her every ounce of fear. Kenji, softly. I suggest you think long and hard about your next move, Leisha. Because if I don't get what I want, I promise you, those US bald eagles won't be the only thing screaming. The silence between them stretched thick, heavy, almost suffocating. For the first time in what felt like forever, Leisha found herself at a loss, vulnerable in the presence of Kenji's unwavering dominance. His threat, sharp and terrifying, hung in the air, and no matter how she tried to reason or fight back, the weight of his words was undeniable. Kenji studied her for a moment longer, watching as she squirmed against her restraints, trying to summon magic that would never come. The ropes he'd used on her were made from a material that suppressed her powers, binding her in a way that she couldn't escape. The realization of her helplessness seemed to sink in. With a cold, detached expression, Kenji raised his hand and smacked Leisha across the face, a swift motion that sent her collapsing back into unconsciousness. She went limp, her head lolling against the wall, still tied up in a tangled mess of ropes. Kenji, coldly. I guess that's the deal. Sekiryuutei dono. His voice carried through the room, breaking the silence. The mention of Issei caught his attention immediately, his head snapping toward the doorway where Kenji stood. His gaze locked onto him for a moment, a brief flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Kenji, grinning. Business is done. You'll get your payment once we're back in Kobe. And I have to say, you really humiliated the nerd a lot. Issei chuckled at the remark, giving a casual shrug, clearly pleased with himself. Issei, grinning. Even better. I took his Kankara formula as one of my styles, and I renamed it to strategist. Niven, standing beside Issei, let out a seductive chuckle, the sound like a soft purr in the air, adding to the triumphant atmosphere. Niven, teasingly. Indeed. Kenji let out a deep sigh, rolling his eyes as he turned to face them both. The events of the day had drained him, and he was eager to be done with it all. Kenji, irritated but resigned. Anyways, let's get the hell out of here before things go south. He glanced one last time at Leisha, who was still unconscious, slumped against the wall in her restraints. With a shrug of indifference, he turned to walk toward the exit, signaling for Issei and Niven to follow. The three of them made their way through the mansion's winding hallways, their steps echoing through the eerie silence. As they reached the storage room's entrance, Niven lifted her hand, weaving a lightning-infused magic circle with ease. Her fingers danced with energy, casting a flash of electric light across the room. Niven, whispering to herself. Let's go home. The magic circle flared with thunderous power, the air crackling with energy. As Kenji and Issei stepped onto the circle, a bright flash of light engulfed them, and the sensation of shifting between dimensions settled in their bones. The underworld gave way to the human world as they were teleported back to Kobe, the mission complete, the job done. The hum of the magic circle slowly faded, leaving behind only the feeling of relief. The trio stood together in the familiar surroundings of their world, each of them processing their own thoughts after everything that had transpired. But for now, all that mattered was that they were safe. United Kingdom, Redgrave City. The church's hidden sanctum, time. 4:03 p.m. Back at the hidden sanctum, the atmosphere was heavy with silence. Eva stood motionless, her eyes locked onto the broken form of the Yamato, suspended inside a magical capsule. Arcane energies pulsed around the demonic blade, trying in vain to mend it. The capsule hummed with magic, but no progress was made. The blade remained fractured, refusing to be restored. Was this her fate? To wield a devil's blade, forged in the abyss, when everything in her soul screamed against it. Her magic, her mind, the very voices that haunted her thoughts, they all called out to her, urging her to accept the blade. But she resisted. She hated devils. Her hatred ran deep, like an old wound that never healed. Her fists clenched tightly at her sides, trembling with conflicted rage. First, that reincarnated devil, the so-called Faction Alliance's pillar, had the gall to ask her out. And now this. Being asked to wield a blade forged by the very monsters she despised. A blade tied to the Sparda bloodline. A bloodline soaked in infernal legacy. Eva, through gritted teeth. Damn heretics. Suddenly, the door behind her creaked open. Carl, her guardian, her adoptive father, stepped into the room. His boots echoed softly against the stone floor as he saw his daughter deep in thought, her gaze still fixed on the shattered Yamato. Carl. Eva, you're here. Have you made your decision, young one? Eva turned her head slightly toward him. Her expression was torn, her eyes filled with doubt. She shook her head. She wasn't ready. Not yet. Eva. Not yet, father. But why am I supposed to wield a demonic blade just to combat another? There must be some other way. Are there no holy swords strong enough to stand against the rebellion? Carl walked toward her calmly, his presence radiating both wisdom and patience. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. His touch was steady, reassuring. Carl, softly. Eva. Embrace the darkness that's within you. You don't have to cast it out, nor let it consume you. But rather accept it, shape it, channel it. Lord Michael sees something in you, my child. He believes in you. Eva's eyes fell to the floor, uncertain. Carl. What if you were given a demonic power, yes, but one that you could control? One meant for destruction and chaos, yet you could reshape it, guide it. Take the Yamato, for example. It was once a blade of division and void, forged for cutting space and reality. But in your hands, it could become a weapon of salvation. A key to seal away the very evil you hate. He turned his gaze toward the capsule, his expression grim but hopeful. Carl. The rebellion is no ordinary sword. You know that. It was Sparda's will made steel. To fight it, you'll need something just as potent. The Yamato is not your curse, it could be your answer. Eva remained silent, the conflict raging behind her eyes. The blade still called to her, but now, it didn't feel like a whisper of doom. It felt like a challenge. Something was changing inside her. The question was, would she rise to meet it? Eva. Embrace the darkness that's within me. Carl smiled softly at Eva. He could see it, the first spark of resolve in her eyes. He wanted to support her, to reassure her in every way possible. Carl, yes, Eva. Show me your motivation, young one. Eva turned her gaze back to the capsule that contained the broken Yamato. The demonic blade shimmered faintly in its fractured state, but as she stared deeper into it, something stirred within her mind. Suddenly, a voice echoed through her consciousness, a memory, a phantom from the past. It was raw, distorted, yet familiar. It was the voice of the man who had once stolen the Yamato. The blade's former wielder. A curse. Power. Eva's breath hitched. Her eyes widened. That voice, deep, commanding, full of burning ambition, sent a chill down her spine. I need more power. Give me more power. Each time the voice echoed, it chipped away at her resistance. Darkness crept into her thoughts, not as a threat but as a legacy. As if the Yamato itself recognized her. As if it knew her. Her pulse quickened. Her magic stirred. Red light surged into her eyes. Her aura ignited a blue, demonic flame that twisted and danced violently around her body. It surged from within, as though something long dormant had awakened. Carl stumbled back in shock, caught completely off guard by the transformation. Carl. Eva. The voice rang out again, louder, more forceful. Power. This is power. Eva's breathing grew heavier, her body trembling not from fear, but from awakening. With a fierce expression, she raised her right hand, opening her palm wide. Her magic flared outward like a thunderclap. In that instant, the broken blade of the Yamato pulsed. The capsule around it shattered in a burst of light, and the fragments of the demonic sword rose into the air. Piece by piece, they reformed, fusing together with glowing veins of infernal energy, until the blades stood whole again. The restored Yamato spun in the air, then, in a blinding flash of blue light, it hurled itself into Eva's open hand. The impact unleashed a shockwave of magic, blasting a gust of wind so strong it sent Carl flying back across the room. The light faded. And there stood Eva, cloaked in an eerie blue glow, her grip firm around the blade's hilt. The Yamato had chosen her. Behind her, a large blue specter, humanoid and feminine in demonic form, hovered like a shadow. It bore a resemblance to a devil trigger, yet it was different. Twisted elegance, unearthly grace. That form didn't represent a transformation, it represented rejection. Eva had not accepted the Yamato's demonic power fully. She denied its pull, refused to acknowledge the darkness within her. Because of that, instead of a complete transformation, the Yamato had manifested her devil trigger as a spectral form, a ghost of what could be. It was the blade's way of saying, you're close. But not there yet. Still, it had acknowledged her. It had chosen her. Carl stood frozen, eyes wide in disbelief. She had done it. She had been accepted as the Yamato's wielder. Michael was right, there was power in this girl, dangerous power. But how? How did she fix the Yamato? When none of them could. Not even the god of the forge, Hephaestus, could repair it. No spell, no holy or demonic magic, had worked. Yet this girl. This child, his ward, restored it with a mere whisper of her soul. She's strong. Suddenly, Eva spoke, but it wasn't just her voice. It was distorted, layered, resonating like a chorus from the abyss. The voice of someone channeling something far beyond their own self. A voice echoing with suppressed hunger. Eva. Power. I need power. Give me more. Power. Carl stumbled back. Carl. What? He trembled. That voice. He had heard it before. So long ago, but the memory never left him. The weight of it returned like a crashing wave of trauma. He had heard that voice. 18 years ago. The Yamato pulsed again. The specter behind Eva shifted, becoming clear. And then the voices overlapped. Two as one. Eva and Darkslayer in sync. Power. Give me more power. Carl's breath hitched. That voice. That exact phrasing. His knees buckled. They were related. They had to be. The Yamato wasn't just reacting to her strength. It was reacting to her blood. He was seeing it now. The eerie similarities. The raw presence. The Darkslayer. And Eva. Connected. And in that moment Carl's mind was ripped open by memory. Flashback. 18 years ago. The younger Carl Redgrave, bloodied and battered, was on his knees, eyes wide with horror. A deep stab wound in his gut, blood dripping from his mouth. Before him stood the man known only as the Darkslayer, wreathed in cold, ruthless power. The Yamato was buried in Carl's abdomen. The Darkslayer leaned in, voice calm. Emotionless. Darkslayer. Foolishness, Carl. Foolishness. Might controls everything. And without strength, you cannot protect anything. But the flick of his wrist, he pulled the blade free. Blood sprayed in the air. The Darkslayer sheathed Yamato with graceful finality like a samurai, then turned his back as Carl collapsed to the ground, pain and shame seared forever into his soul. Flashback end. Carl snapped back to reality, drenched in cold sweat. His hand instinctively reached to the scar beneath his shirt. Eva stood before him now, eyes glowing red, blade in hand, the specter of her devil trigger looming behind her. The past had returned. And this time, it had taken the shape of his ward and adoptive daughter. Eva. If this is my fate to become a demon, no. I will not embrace its demonic gift. I will cast out my darkness. With those defiant words, the fiery blue demonic aura surrounding her began to fade. The spectral form of her devil trigger, a haunting shadow of what could have been, dissipated like smoke. Silence filled the chamber once more. Eva slowly returned to normal. She stood tall, the Yamato now gleaming in her right hand. Her crimson eyes stared into the polished blade, inspecting every inch, every detail. In her left hand, she summoned its sheath, the Yamato's scabbard, forged long ago in both divine and demonic flame. With elegance honed through relentless training, Eva sheathed the katana in one smooth, silent motion. Like a true swordswoman. Like a samurai of old. The blade clicked into place. She looked at it one last time, before dismissing the Yamato into magical storage with a whisper of her spell. Her eyes still glowed red, dim, but resolute, a lingering trace of the Yamato's demonic power. But they weren't the eyes of someone who had fallen to darkness. They were the eyes of someone who had chosen to stand against it. She wasn't embracing the demon within. She was preparing to slay it, starting with her own. The entire scene suddenly transitioned into a glass with the last image of the scene, and then bang, 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 bang. The glass became shattered, transitioning into the word Mission 4 and Mission Rank S. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.